The fruits of the toil of millions are boldly stolen to build up colossal fortunes for a few, unprecedented in the history of mankind. And the possessions of these, in turn, despise the republic and endanger liberty. That's from the People's Party platform. Ooh, that's good alliteration. Of 1892, written by American farmers and workers who believed something had gone terribly wrong with democracy.
Rich. R-I-C-H.
Yeah.
That's how you spell rich.
By the 1890s, the United States is the richest industrial nation in the world. And this is impressive. Following the Civil War, which lasted 4 horrible years, railroads are going to span the continent, steel and oil dominate global markets, and American capitalism looks unstoppable. Shout out to Emmy.
Yeah. Shout it.
I had to.
Okay.
Who's Emmy?
From my class,
Yeah,
from my
who is
W4.
Emmy?
I was supposed to give her a shout out
this
last
is
week,
a
and I didn't.
Okay.
Yes.
Good job, Emmy. I got an Emmy, too. Shout out to my Emmy, too.
Yeah.
How about that?
If we play our cards right, we'll win an Emmy someday.
Oh. Do they do podcasts?
I saw the Golden Globes just did a podcast category.
That could be us.
So we could technically win a Golden Globe, too.
Bingo.
Yeah. I got to take a sip of this coffee. This is a large
Venti.
venti Americano. Speaking of shout-outs,
We have someone very special in the
got a-
studio.
Oh,
special
my
guest
gosh.
in the studio
This
here.
guy.
He's a little tired.
Okay, you're gonna have to say your name.
Come up close
Who
to
are
the
you?
mic.
I'm Graham.
Graham.
She just played a sound effect.
You couldn't hear it because you didn't have headphones on, but it's cool.
Uh,
It's cool. I promise. You'll hear it.
Tell everybody, are you a big fan of the pod?
Yeah.
What's your
Nice.
favorite topic? Oh boy, put him on the spot. History?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
probably whenever Mr. Hill speaks. That's probably your favorite.
That's I
don't you
think everybody's
Yeah,
favorite.
Yeah.
And when do you most like to listen to the podcast?
At night,
To help you?
sleep.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Boring.
There you go.
Graham, I love your glasses.
Graham's a loyal listener.
Looking good, buddy.
All right, so
Graham Garrison.
Yeah, Graham Garrison. My son. All right, so America's very rich. The railroads are booming. Steel is reaching up to the heavens. Oil is spilling out like rich
Black
black
gold.
gold.
Black gold, yeah.
Nice.
Texas tea. Okay, so, but beneath that growth is instability. We're going to have some financial panic, political corruption, and rising anger from people who feel locked out of power. And today's episode asks a simple but dangerous question. Who does the federal government actually work for?
Because this is the moment when Americans start seriously arguing over whether democracy can survive industrial capitalism or whether it's already been bought.
All right, let's set the stage for this episode, really, with the Panic of 1893, which is one of the worst economic crises in American history before the Great Depression.
Yeah, when we say panic, this really is an economic depression is what we would call it today. And this is a result of railroad overbuilding, speculative financing, a very tight monetary policy from the federal government, a fragile banking system. And so when major railroads start collapsing, the economy spirals.
Right, it's kind of one of the first times we see an economic bubble burst.
Yeah.
And the bubble is really, at the core, it's railroads. And as a result of this bubble bursting and this panic and the collapse of the economy, unemployment reaches something like 20%, maybe even higher in certain locations nationally. Banks are going to fail in large number. Businesses just close up shop. And you start to see bread lines pouring out throughout the city, lining up throughout the city. And the federal government's response is basically nothing.
Wah, wah. Oh, sorry.
No,
that
please.
should have been
I wasn't ready, so I'm glad you.
You know,
did
and
sound.
don't forget about the disco. There was a panic there, too.
Panic at the
Oh, yeah. Graham, did you like that one? Okay. So in his second inaugural address in 1893, Grover Cleveland pronounced, let's see, how would Grover Cleveland talk? He would talk like this, I think. The lessons of paternalism ought to be unlearned, and the better lesson taught that while the people should patriotically and cheerfully support their government, its functions do not include the support of the people.
Well done.
Yeah, that does sound
That was so
Cleveland-esque.
Cleveland.
Okay, so this is the President of the United States. Cleveland speaking here, saying this crisis is a big deal, but hey, the government really isn't supposed to just pick people up. The government's not supposed to pick winners and losers. Let's just have to let the cards fall, or the chips fall as they may. And the crisis is going to put America basically in this position where you either survive or you fail, right? And this is after decades of the government basically saying we're staying out of the economy, laissez-faire. It's an economic but also political ideology.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just because the United States has never dealt with problems that come from this massive industrialization. So the belief of this hands-off economy that where the government's not getting involved, this is going to collide head-on with the working class reality where people are starving and they're in these breadlines, like you mentioned, and they need food and they need necessities. It's not the house of have, it's the house of want, to go back to an earlier
Wowzers.
episode.
Yeah. And believe it or not, by the late 1800s, political participation is still very high. Voter turnout is huge. But the trust in the government is flailing.
And that's really because of the corruption that happens in American politics at this time. Both major parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, they're deeply tied to patronage, which is the practice of rewarding loyal supporters with government jobs. And if it sounds familiar, it should.
Right. It's a little bit of a continuity point
Oh,
here.
very nice.
hey,
Very
hey.
nice.
This goes all the way back to Andrew Jackson. And remember, we mentioned the spoils system that Jackson sort of helped introduce with popular politics and mass democracy. The idea was democratic in theory, right? We're going to rotate officers. We're going to bring in new people. Each time someone's elected, they're going to bring in new people. They're going to allow new voices. But what it ends up doing is leading to a lot of corruption and really incompetence.
So, and by the 1870s, corruption is basically everywhere. There's bribes, there's kickbacks, there's railroad influence, there's political machines, there's cats living with dogs.
No.
Corporate money flowing directly into party structures.
And nowhere is this going to be more clear than inside the Republican Party itself.
Right, and it was in both parties. It's just that the Republicans at this point in time have some of the most powerful political machines in the country.
And they are still considered the party of the nation, I would say, because of the legacy of the Civil War.
Exactly. So Republicans are going to be split into two major factions: the stalwarts, led by Roscoe Conkling, and they're going to basically defend patronage and the traditional party structure. And then there's going to be the half-breeds, which I don't know why they were called the half-breed. I get the stalwarts, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Maybe just-
Saxon would know that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was,
he would.
was
He
a
loved the
huge
stalwarts
fan
and
of the
half-breeds.
stalwart.
We act like he's dead. He's not. We just saw him the other night.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
So in this fight between the stalwarts and the half-breeds, it isn't really abstract. It's personal. It's vicious, and it's very public.
And then comes James Garfield, a man who allegedly never wanted to be president, but he gets elected in 1880, I think on like the 30-something. He gets the nomination for the
long time.
Republican Party on the 30-something ballot at the Republican National Convention. And he claims he doesn't want it. He doesn't want it, but here he is. He's from Ohio, and he's trying to balance these factions of the party.
Right, and the reason it took so long to elect the guy is because of the stalwarts who have this idea of let's maintain status quo, and the half-breeds who are like, no, we need civil service reform. And Garfield was kind of a compromise candidate, kind of had a presence in both of these groups. But despite what promised to be maybe a pretty successful presidency, there's America's second presidential assassination.
Yeah.
Garfield will be shot and killed by Charles Guiteau, a mentally unstable man who believed that he had done a lot to get Garfield elected and therefore deserved one of these patronage jobs.
And so modern medicine being what it was, which wasn't really modern, Garfield doesn't die immediately. He lingers. It's months long, suffering publicly, while Americans watch what patronage politics has produced.
And it's an incredible story. I remember hearing about the story in undergrad, and there's a great book called Destiny of the Republic, which is all about Garfield's assassination and also about the maybe improper medical care that he received following the assassination, where Alexander Graham Bell comes in with his new invention, basically a metal detector, and the doctor refuses to let him search the entire body, and blah blah blah. So it's a cool story, and actually Netflix just came out with a show all about this called what's it called?
Death by Lightning.
Yeah,
by
Death by
Lightning.
Lightning.
Yeah, it's really
Death by
good.
Lightning.
Great show.
Yeah, great show.
Netflix, if you're looking to sponsor us, we'll
Netflix.
continue to promote your shows.
Great casting, I thought.
Very good
Yeah,
casting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But okay, so Garfield's death shocks the nation. Obviously, Lincoln had been devastating, but now it's happened again. But this time, it's going to really lead to reform.
And Vice President Chester Arthur, who was a staunch stalwart and a patronage guy to begin with, really surprises everybody here.
He does, the new show on Netflix shows this perfectly. Chester Arthur is kind of this bumbling idiot who never should have been vice president and who's probably deeper into the corruption of New York City and the country than anybody else. But the assassination of Garfield really changes him, and so he begins to support change for the spoils system, and so he's going to support a piece of legislation called the Pendleton Civil Service Act in 1883.
This law is going to create competitive exams, federal jobs, and basically make it illegal to fire workers for political reasons. It's trying to create what we might call a meritocracy. You have to earn your way in. You can't just be given something. You have to demonstrate competence.
Yeah, but it's limited. It's only a fraction of the jobs are covered, but it still represents a turning point.
Yes.
Yeah.
I lost.
What, you okay?
Yeah. I got signed out of my Google account.
Yeah, why did that happen?
I don't know. It happens all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay.
anyway, this idea, right, that the government should be professional, not personal, starts to take root. And this is a good thing, that we've needed this for quite some time. And it's quiet, but it's a crucial step toward progressive reform, which we'll be getting into very soon.
All right, so did you just cough back there? What are you, crazy?
He's got to make his presence known.
Was that a
somehow.
cough or a sneeze, Graham?
Cough.
Okay.
By the late 19th century, Americans don't just feel dominated by political bosses. They are also starting to feel overwhelmed by something that's really harder to see and harder to control, the monopolies.
Monopolies. And
Monopolies.
yes, a monopoly, it's not just a big company. It's a company that dominates an entire industry. It can control prices. It can control wages. It can control access to markets with little or no competition at all.
And so there is also a trust, which is a legal workaround that made that domination possible. Competing companies would place their stock under the control of a small group of trustees who then ran the industry as a single unit, setting prices, limiting output, and crushing rivals.
And we talked about some of these monopolies in a previous episode, but really we see this in some key industries like oil, railroads, steel, and even sugar. So we can imagine that these entire sectors of the economy are increasingly controlled by just a handful of corporate giants.
And for consumers, it means higher prices. It also just means a lack of a choice, which is a problem, a lack of freedom, right? For workers, it means fewer employers and less leverage to try to change some of the conditions or the wages. And for farmers, it means that railroad rates and storage fees for their crops, they can't negotiate that at all.
Right. And so by the 1880s, public pressure is building. And it's not that Americans hate capitalism, but they're really disturbed by the unchecked corporate power that they see.
Right. So we're telling the story here of a distrust of government and government trying to do something to try to regulate these massive changes. And Congress steps in here and introduces something called the Sherman Anti-Trust Act of 1890. Very famous, the Sherman Anti-Trust Act.
At least it sounds cool.
It sounds cool.
Did you want me to play something for it?
I mean, you could. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And
Sherman would love
I always
that.
find that
Sherman would
students
love
kind
it.
of struggle with this because it seems like, hey, this prevents monopolies, right? So it should prevent any more monopolies or corporations from taking over the economy.
Right. And so, it looks good on paper, doesn't it? It's kind of what we call a paper tiger.
A paper
tiger. It has no teeth.
No teeth. Yeah.
Right? And so it does little to, I mean, the loopholes that the lawyers for these corporations can drive through are pretty huge.
Yeah, and the key problem is that Congress never it never clearly defines what a trust actually is, which sometimes I ask myself, what actually is a trust? But
hey, you need
anyway,
to trust yourself.
I'm trying. Or how much market control is too much to be rendered illegal.
And ultimately, this means that enforcement is going to fall to the court systems, and the courts can basically interpret it however they want. And given the laissez-faire industrial capitalism of the time period, the courts generally interpret the law very narrowly.
Right. And in practice, the Sherman Act is used more often against labor unions than against corporations, which really wasn't the point.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and why is this? Because strikes, boycotts, and collective bargaining, they're framed as restraints on commerce. They're framed as interruptions to the flow of free trade and an interruption to American society at large.
Right, and so this idea that trusts or what we call monopolies, they were the ones who were accused of interrupting the free flow of trade, and now that very argument or rationale is being used against these new unions that are starting to form. So it's pretty ironic. But the first federal law meant to rein in corporate power ends up reinforcing corporate power, and yet we tend to see this as an early sign of a progressivism that's starting to
it's
spread.
a stepping stone.
Yeah.
It looks like reform. It sounds like reform, but it ain't reform. So in the 1890s, it mostly protects the economic status quo.
And that tension that we mentioned, right, it's going to play out in the courts. And one case to take a look at would be Wabash, the St. Louis and Pacific Railroad versus Illinois.
Right, Illinois tried – Illinois. Come on, Illinois.
What?
Illinois.
Great state. Land of Lincoln.
Illinois tries to regulate railroad rates within the state. That's the goal.
Right. And the Supreme Court rules that states cannot regulate interstate commerce. Only Congress can do that.
And so when we think about those three railroads who try to sue the state of Illinois, it's because those railroads are going in between states. They're not just running in the state of Illinois. So when Illinois tries to regulate the rates, even though it's within the state, this is what the court comes back with. That no, that's not a state power. You can't do that.
You can't do it, love.
You can't do it. So this decision weakens state regulation, kind of the only place where this reform is being attempted in some places, and it forces reformers to look to the federal government instead of states.
Right. The court's restriction of state power will become a justification for expanding national power later on. Basically, the argument is as the federal government is kind of creates more power for itself, there's more of a demand for it to do something and start regulating the ills of industrial capitalism.
Exactly. But for now, let's shift our focus to the West and the South, to the people hit hardest by these economic changes.
Farmers.
We are farmers.
Da, 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 da.
You know, my dad and my grandpa were farmers insurance agents.
Well, there you go.
And had a little business in town.
I thought you were going to say that they were farmers,
My
given where you're from.
My papa was a farmer, and he was a farmer's insurance agent.
Wow.
He did both, ran a cattle farm and sold insurance to
Incredible.
I've taught farmers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Girls. They're named Farmer.
Their last name was Farmer.
Oh, I remember.
So, hey, Jane,
yeah.
Peyton. Or sorry, Peyton, Jane. One's older than the other. Shout out to the farmers.
Okay, but farmers who would be in fields, these farmers in the 1880s and 1890s, they are facing falling crop prices, the rising railroad rates, and crushing debt.
Yeah, and this is going to lead to a very important early movement called the Grange.
The Grange.
And originally, it's more of a social organization. It's farmers getting together, kind of being like, man, this sucks. And then they decide, you know what? Maybe we should try to use our collective power to enforce political change.
Yeah, it's a cool name. It should be the title of it, like a Clint Eastwood film, I think.
The Grange.
Then comes the Farmers Alliance. Not as cool as a Clint Eastwood title movie, but they are even more radical, and they're also more organized.
And so I like to think of these things as kind of like a union for the farmers, right? Like
Yeah.
if laborers are unionizing, this is what the farmers are doing. And so they're going to push for railroad regulations so that the prices can be more affordable to ship their crops from the west and the south to the east. They would also like cooperative buying. They would also like government warehouses to store their harvests, and they want monetary reform.
And really, it's a grassroots economic activism from a very unexpected place. And farmers are using democracy to challenge corporate power.
Yeah, and out of that energy will come populism, the People's Party.
People's Party.
Populism and the Populist Party, capital P.
Capital
Capital
P
P.
to tell us that it's an actual political party.
Yes. And the farmers then decide we could bring other people into this. There are things that could be good for other people who don't farm, and that could be workers and other reformers. And the party will be its strongest in the South and in the Midwest, of course.
And their platform is pretty bold. It's calling for public ownership of railroads.
Meaning government ownership.
Right? So the people would own the railroads, not private industry. A graduated income tax. And I think students are always like, what? But most Americans don't realize there was no federal income tax.
Not until 1913.
Didn't exist.
Which we'll talk about later.
Exactly.
But
The fact was that they were like, look, let's try to tax people and see if we can use some of this money to help people who are struggling. And the direct election of United States senators. Again, most Americans would be like, what do you mean?
Yep.
United States senators were not directly elected, and they wanted to, probably their biggest ask was to expand currency.
Yeah, and so they believe democracy had been completely hijacked. The people were too far away from their own government, and now they want it back.
So when the Panic of 1893 hits, their anger is going to explode.
Right, and this ties us back into the beginning of the episode, right? That when this economic crisis unfolds, it's unleashing a lot of pent-up anger and frustration that had been building in the years and even decades before. One example of this is Jacob Coxey, who leads an army of unemployed workers to Washington, demanding federal public works and opportunities to improve their lives.
Yeah, and it's peaceful, it's symbolic, and it's ignored.
But it's also a preview of future protest movements that we'll see at the turn of the century, this idea that the federal government should also guarantee economic security.
So, as we mentioned, populism is trying to change the monetary system. And at the heart of it, it's really we need more money, but more money in the system overall. It's not just how much money exists, but who this monetary system is designed to help. And that debate centers on one phrase you'll hear over and over in the 1890s, free silver.
Free silver! Let's see how many different ways we can say it. Free silver.
Free silver, sir.
Please, free silver.
I imagine like I'm standing on a little rock, and then a giant whale named Silver is jumping over me.
I always think
Free
of hi-ho
Willy, but
silver.
free silver.
Or hi-ho silver. That's a
Hi
good
ho,
one.
silver,
That's a good one,
away. So for farmers, this isn't abstract economics. Most are stuck in this brutal cycle. They borrow money in the spring, they buy land, they buy seed, they buy equipment, then they sell the crops in the fall, often at lower prices than the year before.
And here's the problem. Those loans have to be paid back that they took out from banks in gold-backed dollars, right, that are becoming more valuable over time. So our paper money, no one really cares about it unless it's backed by something. And at this time, it's backed by just gold, which means that the real burden of debt keeps growing. And so even when farmers are producing just as much, they're going to be expected to pay back even more.
Right. And so when populists argue for free silver, and they wanted the unlimited coinage of silver in addition to gold, what they're really arguing for is government-controlled and government-induced inflation.
Right. And inflation is like, oh, that's a bad thing, right? Well, not in this case, according to the farmers. So the more money is in circulation, higher crop prices, right? And then for the farmers, those are loans that are easier to pay back to the bank.
But what helps debtors, of course, is always going to scare creditors. So banks and investors and industrialists, they favor the gold standard because it keeps money scarce. There's not as much of it in circulation. And as a result, it's more stable and it's more valuable, which protects their own loans and investments.
Right. So this isn't just a policy disagreement. It's really a clash between two economic worldviews.
Right. One side sees the gold standard as responsibility and stability.
And the other sees it as a system that rewards wealth and punishes work.
So this is why this debate becomes so heated. It's not really technical. It's more seen in terms of morality, fairness, and who has power. And
Justice.
Sure. And whether the economy should serve the creditors, the banks, or the producers, the people who are actually out there making things.
So in strides William Jennings Bryan.
Young, charismatic, Democratic nominee, champion of free silver, and he's also the nominee for the Populist Party.
Yes, the populists see him as they would say he has a lot of riz.
Oh, he
don't.
does. Just like the
Don't-
youth say.
Don't try to do that.
What's wrong with
Not
that?
in front of your son. Don't try to be cool. Do you think your dad's cool? Oh.
Nice.
Yeah, we're buddies.
You
Well
were
done, buddy.
forced to say that.
So in William Jennings Bryan's famous speech, which A-pushers, you will see this guaranteed somewhere on a test.
It's also a good political cartoon.
Definitely cartoon, speech, something. He declares, "You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold."
That's it.
Well,
That's
one of
all
the-
you could give
That's
that
one
line.
of the lines. Come on. I mean,
You couldn't give it a little bit more energy.
zhuzh.
Okay, I'll try again. "You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold."
Much better.
It sounded like you were being crucified.
Well, he was in pain.
Okay. Oh, he
Much
was.
better.
So
And the farmers were too.
He was.
Yeah,
He's had a lot of
exactly.
empathy.
exactly. So the election of 1896 becomes a referendum on populism.
But Brian is going to lose. Gotcha.
There it is.
Gotcha. Yeah, William Jennings Bryan, poor guy, nominee of not one, but two political parties, is going to lose to the Republican candidate, William McKinley, who represents traditional business interests and, of course, the gold standard. And populism as a party fades.
Yeah. And we should say William Jennings Bryan is maybe the greatest loser in American history.
Yeah, and that's a
the
good
biggest
thing to
loser.
be, a good loser.
The biggest, the biggest loser. But what matters is though political party populism fades, the ideas don't die. And in fact, they're going to resurface in progressivism, the New Deal, and beyond. So this is just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. All those ideas that we mentioned earlier about the income tax and the direct election of senators, those are things we're gonna be hitting pretty soon here.
And we should also say we keep hitting this idea, and this was it we sort of started with. When the economic crash of 1893 happens, Americans continue to ask this question: what can the government do to make things better, to make things easier? And at the time, it's basically
Pull yourselves up by your
yeah,
bootstraps.
not much.
Bootstraps.
But populism begins to suggest that maybe government should do something.
Yeah. And again, I think it's just that the United States has never dealt with these sorts of problems before. So it doesn't know, it's not expected that the government would do something.
But all that is maybe about to change.
Just maybe.
yeah, and on the floors of Congress today, that question continually.
Oh yeah, that's what we fight
begins to
about
be
all the
asked.
time.
It
How big should the
reverberates
government be?
throughout time.
Hey, before we leave, happy 1 year anniversary
Oh,
to
yeah.
Push for all
My
you guys.
gosh,
Let's do
we did.
cheers. Look me in the eyes.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Oh, here.
You already finished yours?
Yeah, it was
Dang,
coffee, and it's
dang.
the morning.
Yeah,
and
good
I was
point.
thirsty, and
Whoa.
yeah.
If you saw our Instagram post, we gave a good shout out to all of our fans. But yeah, who would have thought a
Yeah.
year
I
and
tell you
growing
what.
strong every
Huge.
day?
Yeah,
Huge.
feels good.
So thanks for tuning to this episode and all the other episodes of A Push for All. If you like the episode, make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple iTunes, YouTube. Leave us a review. Send us a message. We love getting messages.
We do.
And you can send a message at Instagram at A Push for All.
You know what I think? I want Graham to do my classic exit line.
Oh,
Graham,
okay.
will you read this line? Yeah. This is how we sign. You know how we sign off every time.
There. You gotta say into the mic. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Right here.
Until next time, keep learning from yesterday to make sense of today.
Nice
Yeah,
job.
nailed it.